I have to say, looking at the lectionary texts for Friday, January 23, 2026, it felt like I was reading a script for a really tense, maybe slightly awkward indie movie.
Oh, I can see that.
We're deep in 1 Samuel, right in the middle of the Saul-David conflict, and the scene is just so jarringly human.
It really is. It's one of those moments where the Bible refuses to be sanitized. You have this huge political drama, and it just collides with biological necessity.
That's a very polite way to put it. So we've got King Saul, the anointed one, and he's mobilized 3,000 of his best men to hunt David down.
In the wild goat crags, the paranoia is at its peak.
And then right in the middle of this massive military operation, the text just says Saul ducks into a cave to relieve himself.
And not just anywhere in the cave, but in the inmost recesses of it.
Right. So he's completely vulnerable, he's alone, and he has absolutely no idea that the very guy he's hunting is hiding in the dark just a few yards away with all his men. I mean, you can't write irony that thick.
It creates this suffocating tension. But if we look past the awkwardness of it all, this is really where the rubber meets the road on the whole theme of authority.
Right.
We're looking at these texts, 1 Samuel 24, Psalm 57, and Mark 3, and also a reflection on divine companionship. And the big question hiding in that cave is, what does it actually mean to be chosen?
Yeah, because you've got two very different examples of being chosen right here. You have Saul, who's clinging to power with this death grip.
And then you have David hiding, refusing to grab power, even when it's literally handed to him on a silver platter.
That refusal, that changes everything.
It's the pivot point of history.
So let's get into the cave. I'm calling it the Cave of Mercy, but I have a feeling David's men would have called it something else.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, put yourself in their shoes. They've been on the run, living in the wilderness. They're probably starving. They're terrified.
Right.
And they see the king, the man causing all their misery, walk in alone and, make himself vulnerable. To them, this isn't just luck. It's prophecy.
They even quote it. They whisper to David, "This is the day in which the Lord said to you, I will deliver your enemy into your grasp. Do with him as you see fit." They're basically framing an assassination as an act of obedience.
And that is such a dangerous theological trap. We do it all the time. We interpret opportunity as permission. Just because the door is open or the enemy is vulnerable, we assume God is telling us to strike. David's men are thinking pragmatically. Kill Saul, the war ends, we all go home, and David becomes king. It's perfectly logical.
David, he reads the situation totally differently. He creeps up stealthily, and he just cuts off a corner of Saul's robe. He doesn't stab him. He vandalizes his wardrobe.
Right.
But then, and this is the part that always gets me, he immediately feels guilty.
The text says, David regretted that he had cut off an end of Saul's mantle.
But why? He just spared the man's life. Most of us would be patting ourselves on the back for being so restrained, but David is beating himself up over a piece of cloth?
Well, we have to remember how symbolic clothing was, especially for royalty. The mantle, or even just the hem of the robe, it represented the king's identity, his authority. It was like an extension of his person.
So by cutting it, he wasn't just taking a souvenir?
No, not at all. He was symbolically severing Saul's kingdom. In his own mind, he committed a micro-act of rebellion against the office itself.
Wow, he attacked the dignity of the position.
That's what triggers his conscience. He realizes that even though Saul is acting like a villain, even though he's hunting him, Saul is still the Lord's anointed. David refuses to make it just a personal fight. For him, this is about God's choice and God's timing.
That is a terrifying level of discipline. To have your own soldiers whispering, "Kill him," to have the opportunity right there, and to stop because of a theological principle, that's not normal.
It's the difference between a politician and a true servant of God. A politician seizes the moment. A servant waits for the master.
And he has to manage his men, too.
Oh yeah, the text says he checked his men with these words and forbade them to attack. He's holding back his own army while the enemy is finishing up his business 10 feet away.
So Saul leaves, completely oblivious, and then David does something that just seems insane. He follows him out.
He gives up his position. The element of surprise is totally gone.
He steps into the light and shouts, "My lord the king!" But he's not holding a sword. He bows. He hits the dirt face down.
He's honoring the office, even as he's about to challenge the man in it.
And he holds up the evidence. It's his CSI moment with the piece of cloth. But I love his argument. He doesn't say, "See, I could have killed you." He quotes a proverb, "From the wicked comes forth wickedness."
It's pure logic. He's saying, Saul, if I were the traitor you think I am, you'd be dead. Wicked people do wicked things. I had the chance to do the ultimate wicked thing, and I didn't. So you tell me, am I your enemy?
And then he just piles on the self-deprecation. Who are you even chasing? A dead dog, a single flea. It's so strategic. He makes the king of Israel look ridiculous for sending an army after an insect.
It completely disarms Saul. Aggression needs a threat to justify itself. By calling himself a flea, David just removes all justification for Saul's rage. It forces Saul to look at himself.
And Saul just breaks. He weeps. He calls him, my son, David.
And that switch from enemy to son, that's the proof David's strategy worked. Mercy did what violence never could have.
That's a great point. If David had killed him, it would have started a civil war.
A blood feud for sure. But by showing mercy, he forces Saul to admit the truth. Saul even says it, I know that you shall surely be king.
So the paradox is, by refusing to seize the crown, David proved he was worthy of it.
Exactly. David showed he understood where power really comes from. Saul thought it came from the sword. David knew it came from God's anointing, and you can't steal that. You have to receive it.
Which is a perfect transition to what was going on inside David's head in that cave. We actually get his internal monologue from the responsorial psalm for the day, Psalm 57.
In the shadow of your wings I take refuge till harm pass by.
Such beautiful imagery, but the context changes everything. He's not in a palace writing poetry. He's in the wild goat crags, literally fearing for his life.
He completely redefines his environment. Physically, he's in a limestone cave.
Yeah.
But spiritually, he's in the shadow of God's wings. He wasn't trusting the darkness to hide him. He was trusting God to blind Saul.
And that explains the restraint, doesn't it? If your safety depends on you killing the threat, you have to strike.
Of course.
But if you actually believe you're protected, you can afford to let the enemy walk away.
Fear makes us violent. A sense of security makes us merciful. David felt safe enough in God's care to risk showing mercy.
I want to bridge this idea of forging authority over to the New Testament reading.
Yeah.
Because 1,000 years later, you get another scene of choosing leaders, but this time it's not in a dark cave, it's up on a mountain.
Yeah, we move from the solitary restraint of David to the community building of Jesus in Mark chapter 3.
This is the moment, the drafting of the 12 apostles. And Mark uses this really interesting phrase. He says, Jesus went up the mountain and summoned those whom he wanted.
Whom he wanted. It's so striking because it emphasizes his desire over their utility. He didn't run a skills assessment or hold open tryouts. It was a sovereign choice based on his own want to have them near.
And the list he comes up with is, well, it's a lot. You have Simon Peter, who we know is impulsive. You have James and John, and Jesus actually nicknames them Boanerges.
Sons of Thunder.
Which, let's be honest, sounds like a heavy metal band.
Or a wrestling tag team, yeah. It applies these guys were not exactly Zen masters. They were volatile.
I mean, they wanted to call down fire from heaven on a village later, so thunder seems about right. Jesus is picking people who need a lot of work.
She really is.
And then the name that just lands with the thud at the end of the list, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him.
It just hangs there, doesn't it? Like a dark cloud.
We have to talk about that. Jesus, who we believe has divine insight, wanted Judas. Why would you draft the one guy who's going to burn the whole thing down?
This is where we have to look deeper than just a failed hire. The reflection we're looking at, the call of divine companionship, it touches on this. It says discipleship is rooted in a willingness to respond, not in guaranteed perfection.
Okay.
But the inclusion of Judas tells us something profound about the nature of God's call. It's total vulnerability. God calls us knowing full well we have the capacity to betray that call.
It's a risk.
It's the ultimate risk. If Jesus only picked people who were guaranteed to succeed, then discipleship would just be about programming robots. By picking Judas, Jesus validates human freedom. He invites him into the inner circle, gives him the same power, the same intimacy, knowing Judas might use it all against him.
That completely reframes what a vocation is. We usually think, God called me, so I'm the person for the job, I'm going to crush it. But the presence of Judas means the call is just the invitation. The outcome is still up to us. Being chosen isn't a badge of immunity. It's a high-stakes relationship. You can be right next to the light and still choose darkness. This brings me to the synthesis part. I want to look at the actual job description Mark gives these 12. Because the order of operations seems really specific, and I think we get it backwards constantly.
Mark is very precise here. He appoints 12. For what reason? First, that they might be with him.
Step 1, just hang out, companionship.
Then step 2, and he might send them forth to preach. And only then, step 3, to have authority to drive out demons.
We almost always flip that, don't we? We think, God gave me this talent to drive out demons or to run a business or teach, so I'd better get to work, and maybe if I have time, I'll be with him.
We treat God like a boss who hands us a task list and checks in at our quarterly review, but the text says the primary purpose of the call is companionship, that they might be with him.
And this connects right back to David. He didn't just stumble into that cave with a heart full of mercy by accident.
No, it was a reflex.
A reflex born from what?
From years in the wilderness, years of writing songs like Psalm 57. David had spent so much time being with God in the sheep pastures, in the desert, in caves, that when the crisis hit, he didn't react like a desperate soldier. He reacted like a friend of God.
He had the companionship part down, so the authority part flowed naturally from it.
Precisely. If you skip the being with part and go straight to the driving out demons part.
You don't get King David, you get King Saul.
You get Saul. You get leadership that's anxious, paranoid, and ultimately violent. Saul had the crown, but he didn't have the connection. He was doing the job, but he wasn't with the one who anointed him.
That's a sobering thought. You can be so busy doing God's work, fighting battles, defending the kingdom, and completely lose the plot because you bypass the relationship.
And that reflection we're using, it poses a really practical question. It asks, how can I intentionally spend time with Jesus today so that my actions flow more deeply from my relationship with him?
It's about reversing the flow. Instead of action leads to prayer, maybe, it's relationship leads to action.
Right. If the apostles had gone out to preach before they really knew Jesus, before they understood his heart, they would have been preaching a message of thunder, calling down fire. They needed to be with him to learn that the kingdom is built on mercy, not just raw power.
Just like David needed the wilderness to learn that true kingship is about restraint, not just killing your enemies.
It's the exact same lesson, just separated by 1,000 years. True authority is forged in intimacy with the divine. Anything else is just power, and raw power always turns destructive in the end.
So we've unpacked a lot here. We've gone from a bathroom break in a cave all the way to the theology of apostolic succession.
Well, it's all connected. The Bible is great at grounding high theology in dirt and caves.
As we wrap this up, I'm just thinking about you, the listener, who might be in your own version of that cave right now.
We all find ourselves there.
You know that moment. You have the upper hand. Maybe it's in an argument, and you have that one piece of information that will just destroy the other person. Or maybe it's a competitor at work who made a mistake and you could bury them. You have the knife. Your enemy is vulnerable.
And the voices in your head, just like David's soldiers, are saying, do it. It's justice. You've earned this.
So the question is, do you strike or do you just cut the mantle?
Do you trust God enough to show mercy? Do you trust that you don't need to destroy someone else to secure your own future?
And on the other side of that, looking at the gospel, are we defining our worth by how many demons we drive out today or by how much time we simply spend with him?
And that really is the difference between a career and a calling. A career is about what you do. A calling is about who you are with.
And as we saw with Judas, you can be in the room right next to the source and still miss the entire point. So the stakes are really high.
The highest.
Plenty to think about before you head into your own wild goat crags this week. Keep an eye out for those caves and maybe, just maybe, leave the sword in its sheath. Thanks for diving in with us.